All right, y'all people ready? All right.
For what it's worth, we're not unused to.
No, I'm leaving you open so you can hear what we have to say. All right. Thank you. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors portion of our meeting to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. I've been informed that we need to add the mission critical invoice to the consent agenda. And we'll make that consent item 2A. And then it doesn't really need to be added, but Cardi has an update on RSA for us during information and correspondence. Anybody else have anything we need to add to the agenda? Mr. Weekly, you got anything else?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, I'd like to start with public comment. Public comment. Public comment. All right. We're going to do it again later in the meeting. We don't have any special appearances tonight. We do have a consent agenda. It's minutes from 8/24, minutes from September 9th or September 1st, and then the added mission critical invoice that I think is also from September 1st. Anything we need to pull apart, or what would y'all like to do? Questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Please.
Mr. Yao brought to my attention, we do have to correct a typo on spelling on the minutes for 9-1. That should read Hurst for that name. So we will make that correction. Just want to make aware to the board.
Very good.
Spelling.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right. Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Constitutional officers, county departments, committees, and organizations. The sheriff. You have anything going on, Sheriff, you'd like to report to us?
All is well.
All is well. That's the best thing to hear. Very good. Mr. Fry, I understand you have an update for us from finance? Yes, sir. Is that? See if you can turn the mic on some way. I don't think so.
Oh,
There
sorry.
you go. Thank you.
I'll start over. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff, and citizens. I just wanted to give you a little update on the finances here at Madison. So I handed a couple of pieces of paper to you guys, and basically it's a simulation of the financial audit that was done last year, but it's with this year's numbers as of today. It's preliminary. Of course, we still have work to do in FY21, but we're getting close to the end as far as our normal entries. And so I would like to just make a couple of comments if you want to look at that. On the general fund, I hope that you can see I've tried to show the budget, the actual, and the variance. And on the general fund, we came in about $350,000 short on revenue, and there's certain reasons for that. Interest income was less, some other reasons. But also, I believe we still have a few federal and state grant revenues to record, so that will probably lessen that deficit. But on the expenditures, good news, we saved about $2 million from what we had budgeted. So all the departments turned in funds that was basically money that they had not spent from their budget. Also, there was money that we saved from transferring. And all that means is we probably didn't fulfill all of the capital improvements, as an example, or the school board didn't spend all their money, so our transfers were less. So in total, about 4.2 million that we used less of our fund balance than we had anticipated from the budget. If you look also, I showed a new fund, the COVID fund, and basically it's revenue in and revenue out, but it just shows that we collected the 2 million and that we spent it. And that fund will be closed as of FY21. On the capital budget, we have about 1.5 million that's unspent, so that will be carried forward. And we'll come back to you at some point with what I call encumbrance rollovers as well as capital project rollovers. And what I mean by that, if we have commitments that took place in the past that we still owe for, that we still are receiving services for, we'll roll the money forward from FY21 budget into FY22. And we will bring that to you probably as a consent item because you've already approved the project in the past, but we just need to load that budget for FY22. So that'll be coming. And in addition to that, we'll have some encumbrances, which are really commitments on the operating funds that we need to also bring forward from FY21 into FY22. And these should be normal processes that you guys do every year. I'm not sure what you've approved in the past or not, but we can talk about that. I'll speak to Jonathan and we'll put a package together and let you know whether it's a consent item or just an informational item without any type of approval. On the agency fund, I'm just going to clarify that one. That's actually the special welfare fund, and it's fairly small. And basically they used about 10,000 more than they collected. So it's hitting their fund balance a little, but that's fine. That's what the money's there for. On the schools, and again, very preliminary, we need to finalize everything with the schools, but it appears as of right now that they basically have about 783,000 that they're adding to fund balance, and that's probably where they haven't recorded everything yet for FY21 or haven't spent the money from the budget. So that's basically it on the financial update. Do you guys have any questions or? And then I'm going to go into a little operational.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Bragg, I do have
Yep.
one question. Okay, so the capital projects fund, and I was speaking to you a little bit earlier. So, all right, so we had 11,253,611
Yes.
budgeted. We spent 9,000,007. I guess most of that is the primary school, I would think, right?
It's a combination of the schools as well as this building. It's all the capital projects that's in, quote, Fund 35 and 36, which would be the county capital debt finance capital projects as well as the school debt finance capital.
So debt
Projects.
finance capital expenditures don't show up on any of this until we spend the money. Is that correct?
Well, spend the money or incur
Incur
the
the-
expenditure.
Yeah, okay.
We owe the money, basically. And that would be what I'm calling a rollover. So if we have spent the money, let's say that we have some items where the actual contract has been let or the purchase order has been submitted and therefore we have a commitment, then those are what I'm calling encumbrance rollovers. They're committed funds already.
So we will see pretty large encumbrance
Yes,
rollover for the ERP system.
yes, yes. And
Okay.
I haven't looked at those projects in detail yet. That's one of our next steps, but I think most of the projects are pretty well completed, except probably the ERP.
And radio system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the financial update?
No, my comment is the radio system still has work that needs to be done.
Yes,
So some of that 1.5 is going to roll into that once it's
yes,
spent.
yes. We'll roll it by project.
Yes, sir.
So we'll look at each and every individual project. There could even be money left on the school. I'm not sure.
There will-
I haven't gotten into that detail yet, but however each project has a remaining balance is how we'll roll it. And then if for some reason one of those projects is quote complete and there's money left over, we'll come back to you. I would think we need to come back to you and have a budget adjustment to move that maybe to another project or back to the general fund or whatever. And we need to be careful, of course, if it's bond proceeds. You can't just spend it on anything. I'll go real quick, but I was going to also give you a little operational update. So that's basically the FY21 update, and that's what I have been focused on. But we also have been looking at FY22 budget, and we realized, I think the last time I was here, I reported that we realized the line items for FY22 was not budgeted the same way as FY21, and I think a lot of the department heads are having trouble with that. So what we're going to do now that we're kind of at the end of FY21, we're going to go back and realign the FY22 budget and make it very similar to what FY21 line items look like, so that hopefully we're not changing anything on the department heads so that they can better look at their budgets and understand it. The other thing is the auditors, well, as you know, Mary Earhart comes as a pre-audit. And some of those entries, of course, will affect the report I just gave you. And she's going to be here October 25th through the 27th on site. And then the auditors will be here November 8th. So I just thought I'd give you an update, let you know that. Also, the cross training that I talked about last time, we have Angie has been trained in payroll. It's an ongoing project. I think she's on vacation maybe next week, and that's when payroll is. But we are probably about 40% complete on that training, and it looks like that maybe by mid-October, she's going to be actually driving the cart, meaning she'll do the payroll, and Tilly will kind of watch and make sure she understands everything. The ERP, of course, is a big topic. And I know that there's some items on the board agenda tonight, so I won't discuss that. But I just saw, I'd let you know that our staff is heavily involved in training. And Michelle especially has been spread very thin because of that. So we're looking forward to some additional coordination and hopefully better management of that project. And then also, the last thing that I guess I wanted to say, I think I had mentioned standard operating procedures last time. So we have started developing a list of some of the SOPs that we would like to develop, but we have not had time to develop any of those yet. And it could be that some of those will be things like, what do we bring to the board? When do we get this approved? Do we need this approved? Should we do this, that with the board? So it might be some SOPs that will actually affect Jonathan's position and the board. So we'll bring those to you as we have time to develop. So any other questions?
Anybody else have questions, Mr. Fry?
Pardon me?
Mr. Fry, thank you very, very much.
Oh, certainly.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman,
you.
just one thing to add. So we are tracking some grants. So we met this morning and we actually will follow up to Carissa's office, but just in general, compiling all of those. So we're tracking. Some of them are closer than others, Commonwealth attorneys being the first to go. So we may be going around departments, just kind of making sure what we have a list of, that we've captured everything. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that we are working to get that completed.
Right. Anybody have questions? Thank you, Mr. Fry.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, Michelle, is everything he said right? That's the way today. Do you have anything to report from finance? Good, good. Valerie, how's social services?
Things are well at Department of Social Services. In the board's packet, I had provided the recent dashboard of our agency's performance in both the region and the state. So I'm very proud to report my staff's performance is at 100% in those areas. So I'm trying to increase my information I'm providing out to the board about the agency's performance. We're going to have, We're going to have an open house on October 13th to kick off our energy assistance program, and are hoping to do a little outreach for more people to learn about programs to help with their heating costs for the winter. Other than that, things are stable, have filled some vacant positions, and I'm hoping to be ready to move forward with their training.
Anybody have any questions for Valerie?
Valerie, you might tell them about the children in foster care and the
Over the
Good
past
news.
several years, the expenses related to foster care costs and the associated impact on the Children's Services Act costs have been closely monitored by the board. And I'm very pleased to report that at this point, we have 20 children in foster care and 14 children or youth that we're continuing to support to age 21. We anticipate that about 8 children will be exiting in the next few months. So we will be at an unprecedented low number of children and associated costs for their services. We are starting a prevention program to hopefully get ahead of some of the issues that ultimately can result in children entering foster care. So a lot of good work is being redirected to hopefully have a longer term impact on costs for CSA and DSS.
Thank you. Other questions for Valerie? Tracy, you're holding the microphone. What are we doing in
Well,
tourism and economic development?
first of all, the main thing I wanted to report is the VATI grant has been submitted officially today. So looking forward to hearing the results from that in December, I think was the next date we had. Also to report on CLOR's 100th and their Love Work unveiling on September 11th went really well. Very respectfully honored September 11 as well, 9/11 victims. First time I've ever had reporters actually reach out and apologize for not being able to attend because they had to cover the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So that was also nice. Karen said there was about 500 people there throughout the day, so it was very well attended. And a follow-up to that, the next upcoming new event is September 25th at Cresseray Farm to fundraising festival for all of our emergency services and the fire department as well. They actually need some volunteers if anyone is interested in helping out with that. I told them I may try to do that too. We still have availability with the Small Business Development Center and free websites for businesses. They brought by postcards or these cards today, better with the visual, I guess. So if you know of a business who's struggling with the website, they can get a free one. Another way to get a free one is to attend our Quad County Business Summit October 20th. And the winner of that will get $5,000 and also a free website, along with a panel including Peter Rice and lunch from Catch the Chef that day as well. Some other interesting kind of out of the box things I've gotten lately. Mr. Gimbel's daughter, I believe, is a veterinarian, and they reached out to us. They want to do a bench in his honor. And maybe Beasley Park, possibly at the library lawn as well, and a pet waste station in his honor, but something that's kind of needed in those areas anyway. So I told them I would help coordinate that if that was something we could approve for them. More on that later. And then I've put this in my report before, but there's a movie. It's a couple that they're kind of half in Culpeper, half in Madison. The film was filmed in both, but a lot of Madison scenery, called Danny's Twins. And she is one of the world's only quadriplegics that gave birth to twins. And Virginia Tourism is looking at sponsoring it. They also are looking at more sponsors and hope to do a screening here locally next year. So are the main things.
All right.
Mr. Moreau from Madison Vines hopes to open soon. I'm going to do a walkabout with him hopefully this week as well.
Good. It's quite the list. Anybody have questions for Tracy? All right, Tracy, pass it to Mr. Carpenter first, and then we're going to go backwards. Mr. Carpenter, how's the planning commission doing?
Right now, we have basically two reports that we're going to be bringing to the Planning Commission tomorrow night. The Agriculture, Conservation, and Residential Committee has been reevaluating the Commercial Solar Energy Facility Ordinance, and they have that ready to report out. And the Business, Industrial, and Sign Committee has been looking at the event permit ordinance as requested by the Board of Supervisors. And we have a preliminary report on that to bring to the Planning Commission tomorrow night also. I think there's a subdivision application coming up tomorrow night as well, but that's the main activities that we've been doing.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Carpenter and the planning commission? Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. And it's Tracy. Tracy, congratulations on the first grandkid.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Ligon.
I'll just continue what Steve said. The subdivision is on James City Road, and it's Andy Gayhart and Marvin Jenkins, which I know you're familiar with. It's 3 parcels, it'll be for 12 lots. So it's a pretty significant subdivision, but all by right. Everything looks to be in order. As far as the office goes, April was in Tyler training all day. We were sort of manning the front desk while she was working on the training. We had a pause for quite a while in that training, but it looks like we're back on schedule with Tyler. We really can't wait till we can implement that, which, of course, we've been working on for a while. Otherwise, the office is busy. Building permits are still very strong, and more special use permits and other things to consider in the future for the Planning Commission and the board ultimately. So that's about it.
Any questions for Ligon?
I got one quick one. So on the subdivision that you're gonna look at tomorrow, those guys, they did subdivide some property not too long ago. I guess this is different property. So it's the 4 and 10 rule is not being.
Now, these are 3 existing lots that haven't been subdivided in years. So they're
Okay.
right.
Other questions? All right, Noah.
Good evening. August was a busy month, 141 calls. 10 minutes was our average response time. Having continued challenges filling our vacant paramedic position, just wanted to make the board aware. I'm not receiving applications. Alan Berry has posted on VACO and several sites. I've been advertising on Indeed, and we'll continue to work towards that. I'm excited. Our volunteer division is live, and we have 10 volunteers going through 10.
Good.
And they're going through the preception release process, but that's good news. I've appointed Coleman Walters to be a sergeant of that division for recruitment, retention, onboarding, and he's been a great help. I also want to make the board aware that my FY22 budget planning did not anticipate a volunteer division, so there may be an increase in uniforms, training costs, etc. But I'm currently using our budget. I'm very excited to announce that the Culpeper Wellness Foundation, we were awarded $32,470 for the purchase of 17 AED units. And our plan, talking with Troy, and is to outfit the deputy cars with AEDs to get a better footprint for early defibrillation. I'll have a final answer on the mental health project at the next board meeting. We're pretty much there. And then part of our FY22 capital was body armor that came in, and we're outfitting our folks. So a lot of moving pieces.
All right, questions for Noah? Thank you, Noah. Pass
Thanks.
it backwards, please. Greg
All right.
Kagan.
I'll give you a rundown of both departments.
Last month, the shelter was overrun. We were able to transfer several cats, dogs to different rescues, also adopted from the animal shelter and the Culpeper Pet Smart. If you haven't noticed, the shelter got a new coat of paint and the play yard is finally installed. You know, everyone, animal control is current on their certification credits. We're still attending because a lot of them they're offering are free, no cost. Annette will be taking a equine animal cruelty case this afternoon. Next week, I'm scheduled to take a rabies zoonotic disease outbreak class next week. Working with Stephanie, Dr. Reinhold on rabies vaccination records so we can reach out to general public on any expired rabies, county tags, and other than that, just staying busy.
Rabies and zoonotic next week.
Yeah, zoonotic.
Good.
It's free. You can take
yeah,
it.
that's the best cost. Thank God.
He's got his giraffes and his.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. I'm thinking we got problems then. Zebras. Yeah.
Giraffes and emus and pot-bellied pigs.
Great.
So I'd like to report that we're winding up on this project, and we've given them a letter for 3 weeks. We want completion in 3 weeks. So, and I'm looking at the numbers. We're looking pretty good on the numbers. So I'm not going to beat that horse yet, but anyway, we're looking pretty good on the numbers.
No, Annette's taking a class about that next week. All right. What else are we missing on these buildings, Roger?
It's just some minor things. We just went back through yesterday and did a punch list for some minor stuff, some little painting and just little stuff.
Anybody got any questions on that? All right, you gonna hang a clock behind you? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Trying to serve the general public. All right, John Shear.
Oh, yeah, it's on the TV too in the bottom right hand corner.
Good. Get a clock. All right, John Shear.
Just a couple little things. Valerie and Anna Graham and myself met with the Red Cross the other day out at the primary school just to look at that for being the shelter moving forward for the citizens. Looking at the contract that the Red Cross presented, I was reading over and not being a lawyer, I had a little hiccup with a couple things. So they're in front of Jonathan now for review. But all in all, the school itself looks great for a shelter. It's just the legal agreement needs to be gone over a little bit further. So we're going to look into that a little further, but regardless of that, the school moving forward needs to be the county shelter. Brian and I went out to Luray last week, met with the Shenandoah Park people, pretty good dialogue with them. COVID put a back seat for a long time talking to that outfit, but we're redoing our radio system, and matter of fact, we're going to redoing their radio system. So there's no better time to get on the same sheet of music. They were kind of, they said they were, well, in-house stuff they can do pretty easily, but stuff that needs to go to Washington and back and forth, that's going to take some time. Bureaucracy will raise its ugly head on that. But anyway, we're looking at that. We're trying to get to a point where one of these days, if we do have an incident up there, we can just talk to a park ranger and we don't have to talk to our EOC to talk to their EOC and all around Robin Hood's barn, just back and forth. We all know that with any emergency incident after action report, there's one big thing that comes out every time as a problem, and that's communications. So there's no better time to try to work on that. So working on that. Brian's very, very active in that, as you know. So staying in touch with VDH and, for COVID issues, we all know that's not going away, but we're trying to keep ahead of it. I think Noah's up to speed on all his PPE, and like I said, it's not going away. So other than that, working with fire on operational issues with EMS. We had a drill last week. We did some extrication stuff out in the parking lot of the firehouse with both Noah's folks and the fire folks, so that went well. So just moving along. That's all I got.
We got any questions for John? please.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, so on the American Red Cross shelter agreement, obviously I will, as John mentioned, kick it around to Sean Gregg, but I'm meeting with the superintendent of schools about parking lots, I think tomorrow, sometime this week. So I will bring this to her attention. It is the school's facility. I do appreciate John and our team meeting, so we just need to make sure we check the boxes, but definitely it's at that status. So their property, but we'll see if it's a good thing and bring it back to the board, so.
Very good. Yeah, that sounds great. All right, Ms. Barry.
Good afternoon, friends. It has, I believe, been a while since I've been here. As Mr. Fry mentioned, we are working with finance on getting our grants closed out for fiscal year 21. There's just a few last boxes to check, but that should be well done before the deadline. I've been working with Bruce on IT issues, and Roger has spent some time lovingly in the clerk's office trying to help me get fiber to our office. There's also some additional projects. The IT infrastructure in my office, or our office, probably hasn't been updated since the building was renovated, which maybe was 25 years ago. So there are some things that need to be addressed, just simple things like only one data line to every office. And now that we have data lines for phones and computers and all of the other things, we're working on that, making sure we can get our Wi-Fi relocated because right now there's no Wi-Fi in my actual office. So,
Good system we got.
well, when you spend, 3 hours with someone working on your computer trying to fix it, it can be an adventure. But that adventure has since ended, and we're up and running, and everything is great. Just a reminder to the public that my office is behind the courthouse. My phone number and my email are easily available. If you have any questions, concerns, do feel free to reach out. One small caveat is that I am going on vacation Thursday and Friday. So other than that, though, I will be in town and around and happy to talk with whoever needs to have a conversation. We have also been working, I know I've mentioned the MDT, the multidisciplinary team in Madison, that we work closely with the Sheriff's Office and DSS, as well as partners with the schools and the Community Services Board and Foothills, the Child Advocacy Center in Charlottesville. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. It is really one of the best things that Madison County has. It is truly something that helps the children of this community. We had a meeting this week with some of our broader partners in the school, with our school counselors and administration, just to kind of help make sure that we all were on the same page. One of those things, not a real reason for it, but it's just an example of how everybody really wants to be on the same page and work to help these cases not just be investigated, but also be prosecuted. And everything's done with the best interest of the child at heart. Jury trials are still a go. The judges have enacted a mask order for all of the courthouses, I believe, at this point. And drug court is still trucking along. We don't know when we'll hear from the federal government. The original date was October 1st, but it may not quite be October 1st at this time. There's been some discussion about why we're doing it. I'm happy to, again, talk with anybody about, I won't take up the board's time because I know we've been through it before, but feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about the pluses and the minuses of it because there are pros and cons like to everything. I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Any questions for Clarissa? Thank you, Clarissa.
Thank y'all, and I'm going to run out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
she is going to run out, do need an update. We just found this out today. Bruce was going to make mention of it, but I'm going to steal his thunder. Fiber will resume tomorrow. We got that worked out. So, tomorrow morning.
I'm always happy. I'm always going to bet on the dynamic duo of Roger.
We talked to the other party and we got that squared out.
Doing an excellent job, Bruce.
Well, not only that, we're also scheduled next week to get the people in there to run additional data in your office. So your two connections, unless you say we can't, your one connections, they're going to go to two now. We also have a brand new high-powered state-of-the-art Wi-Fi. That one's going away. But we're sensitive to what's going on with you and apologize for the difficulty you've been through on that, because you have been through a lot of problems over there. So it's coming to an end, though. That's it.
Are you making a poster during the meeting? What do you got there?
This is trash from the electoral board.
Oh, there you go. All right, good. Vote. It's important. All right, Livingston, what else you have going on? I understand you've been busy.
Well, like Jonathan said, we were running the fiber, but we had a brief interruption in that, but we got it worked out. Roger and Jonathan did that. Office 365, once again, I want to apologize to the sheriff's office, some other folks out here. It went pretty good for about 90% of the people, but folks who were using, different generic sorts of accounts, like accounts payable, purchase orders, MC Sheriff. We struggled to get that, but we got it fixed yesterday to where attachments were coming through. We got it done before payroll, but it was, we had to visit a lot of desktops and set that up. Good part is we are pretty much off of that plane that's about to crash, and we got off in time. So we're good to go on that now. We're pretty much migrated to Office 365. In addition to Clarissa's building, we're also going to be running fiber to the courthouse. So we're basically going to go aerial to the courthouse and then trench to Clarissa's office. And Segra has already been in the E911 center to evaluate the equipment, and they should be showing up at any time to replace that and give us that long-awaited jump to gig speed up and down, which will be great for all of us. We're putting an emergency phone at the EMS department per NOAA that folks can, and if they happen to show up in the middle of the night and there's nobody there, they're going to have a button that rings back to the E911 center. And I got the PO ready to go for that in the morning. ERP prep for zoning, finance, and HR. All that training's supposed to start on Thursday. Working to get their desktops ready so that when the Tyler folks jump on, we're ready to go. And other stuff is just the daily fires. The meeting seems to be running okay tonight to the live stream.
It's still early.
Unfortunately.
It'll be okay.
After the last one. But that's it.
All right. Any questions for Livingston and his very quiet calendar? Thank you very much, Livingston.
You're welcome.
All right. I think we've hit everybody. Oh, Miss Murray is on go to meeting. Miss Murray, do you have anything to report to us? She was. She's not there, is she? Yeah, I think Miss Murray's coming. Maybe not. Jump in if you feel like it, Miss Murray. All right, moving on. We don't have any other old business. New business. We do have case number SU-09-21-11, and that's the special use permit consideration for the commercial garage up, Herd Hollow Road. It was tabled at the last meeting so we could do some right-of-way research. Mr. Gregg, you want to speak about this, or do we want Mr. Weekly to speak on this? Still there, Mr. Gregg? This is going. See, you had to say something, Livingston. We're doing really well. The heck is that? Are you there, Sean Gregg? Jonathan, why don't you? Oh, it's Alan Berry. All right, go ahead, Jonathan. Yeah, Sean Gregg.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. I reviewed the material that was presented to us by some of the interested parties. It was some title work pertaining to the rights of way for the property. And what I discovered is there appears to be a right-of-way referenced in a plat. The right-of-way itself, though, is not specifically referenced in the deed. That said, I don't think a judge would have a problem determining that it is, in fact, a deeded right-of-way. However, that is an open question. If the court decides that it is not a deeded right-of-way, the court could decide that it is a prescriptive easement. The limitation of it being a prescriptive easement is a prescriptive easement typically is limited to the uses that have been made for the property openly, notoriously hostile to the rights of others, or some other legal standards, but you are limited with a prescriptive easement to the uses that have been made of the road. In other words, you could not expand the use. We do not have a definitive answer on that question. I do think, though, that in terms of access to the property, that is clear, either from the deeded right-of-way that is shown on the plat, if the court determines it is a deed, that it is part of the conveyance, or the prescriptive easement, which I mentioned. The good news for Madison County is it does not need to decide that issue, but I believe it is appropriate for the county to make it clear in any resolutions approving this, and I'm not suggesting that the board will approve or disapprove that. That is obviously in the province of the board. But the board can do that and let the parties who are interested in the various rights-of-way issues take those up between themselves. I do believe that under the circumstances, though, the plat does not show a width of the right-of-way. It is literally just a line on a map. I think that what a court would decide in terms of what the width of the right-of-way is, I think a court is likely to determine that the width is what is essentially on the ground. I visited the property and I discovered that the width is, in some places it's 8 feet, other places it's about 10 feet. I didn't see any areas that were particularly narrower than that, but one of the things that the parties, if they decide to pursue this among themselves, I am certain that the court would require that a survey be commissioned for that purpose. That's probably more information than the board wanted. The takeaway is there is access to the property, whether it's by deed or by prescriptive easement. There are good arguments for either of those, but in any event, there is clearly access to the field's properties. And I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Anybody have any questions at this point? Anybody have any questions at this point for Sean Gregg? Mr. Weekly, do you have comments on this?
So thank you, Sean, for that. Ligon and Sean and myself, we talked about special use conditions since the last meeting. You have a copy of that. I believe, Mr. Webb, did you provide that to both the Hearst and Fields? And I have hard copies of that if you like that as well. I'll hand them out real quick.
Thank you.
What's up on the screen? So, Mr. Chairman, these are recommended, I want to be clear, recommended potential special use permit conditions. So it's obvious this is looking through the lens. If you're looking to approve, these are some items. I don't know if you want me to read verbatim or not. I can if you like.
No.
Okay.
It's up there. Why don't you identify the changes in number 4 of the conditions, I assume? And yeah.
Ligon, if you'll come to the front as well, please. I think item 4 that the chairman is referring to, this is where we went from will to shall. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Pull up all the way.
Okay.
Yep.
There was just a couple incidents where wills became shall. Number 2, applicant shall. On number 3, I think during the meeting, I had changed this, and this was just basically the engineer report for the building, give them 45 days as opposed to 30. I just thought that would be a little more time, given that most engineers are pretty busy right now. Leaving number 4 we had a will toward the end that became a shall. Based on our meeting on Friday when Jonathan and Sean and I met, we've looked at this right away, and I think Sean did a wonderful job of researching this and coming up, which I think is a good position. And I just simply, after our meeting, just added number 5, which says, just by approving special use permit application, the county and its agents, that's us, make no claim or determination regarding the shared use or maintenance of this private drive utilized by Laura and Sean Fields. Took out the there. Any claims or disputes between private party individuals regarding this private drive is a civil matter. But we hope that doesn't become a situation that they can live in harmony over this. But just to make it clear, that's really an issue that anyone has a right of way that shares sometimes will have. So we hope that, at least from my perspective, that there's some harmony there. But other than that, that's some small tweaks from what you saw on September 1st.
So essentially tonight, if we approve this special use permit, we are approving the use of having this commercial garage. We are not making any determination on the right of way other than there is current access, and that access, if challenged, would have to go in front of the civil court.
That's correct.
All right.
I have a question for Sean.
By Sean. I don't know. Sean Gregg, Ms. Hoffman's got a question for you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Sean, this is kind of a gray area, but somebody brought it to my attention, so I need you to clarify. If there was a prescriptive easement because the Fields have been using it for their home for 20 years, we know it's a prescription easement, but if the business has not been using it but a short period of time, does that still give them the right to run the business on that same road? Because it's a different parcel?
If that is challenged in court, a court could conceivably make a ruling that they do not have the right to use the road for commercial purposes, because that is an expansion of the prescriptive easement. A prescriptive easement gives you the right to do what has been done on the property for a period of time exceeding 15 years. So if that use is a new use, then it could be blocked in court, but that would require a court proceeding.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Other questions for Sean Gregg, Ligon, or Mr. Weekly?
Yeah, I've got one.
Please.
So number 3, Ligon, that is saying that, okay, so somebody from a building official from Madison is going to go up to the Fields shop and say this, and this needs to be done to bring it in compliance with the building codes for a commercial garage, right?
Well, no,
And that's got to be done within 45 days.
right, that's a licensed engineer of our architect. So what will probably have to happen is, since it hasn't been drywalled in, he'll probably have to take some of the walling off and show the framing. Might have to dig under some of the footers. So Jamie just says that needs to be, and that's the standard procedure.
Okay, so at that point, the Fields just need to be made aware of what needs to be done, because there is no way to get this work done within 45 days.
Oh, no, we just want that report from an engineer that
Okay,
says
just
this,
report.
and most likely it will say we need to add hurricane clips up here, this, that, some things like that will probably come back, and then we can get those permitted.
Okay, the report will be provided. Okay.
Right.
And then,
Gotcha.
Going on to 4, doesn't it? Potential recommended approval shall be undertaken through the building permit process be inspected by the building official and completed within 6 months of approval of the special use permit.
That's right. So if we find out we need to do some things, then come to the office, get your permits, and then have the building official inspect it, sign off on it.
And I know we're getting into the weeds, but the code compliant bathroom, that ADA compliant?
That's correct.
Yes, sir. All right. All right. How y'all want to proceed here? We don't have to go to the public. I'm tempted to ask the applicant. I know the Hertz are here as well and Hearst. Y'all want to go to the public? Do you want to talk about it, or what do you all want to do?
They may have something.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
Mrs.
have-
Fields, we'll start with you, I guess. Have anything to add to this whole fun time?
I don't think I have anything to add. I think we answered all the questions last time. I know that this requires a commercial permit from the county, but I would just remind you that there's one man trying to earn a living on his own property. So commercial is a little bit of a stretch. And there's not that much traffic. It hasn't been a problem before, and I remain committed to being a good neighbor and to working things out when they can be. If you have any further questions for me, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions, Ms. Fields? And you've looked over this list of conditions and you see that as no hindrance?
Yes, sir. I feel that we can comply with all these.
Please.
I've got one. So, Ms. Fields, how long did you all operate illegally, unknowingly illegally, by the way?
Since February.
Huh?
Since
Just since
February, I
February?
think, February, March. Mhm.
That's when you all started charging people for work being done in the shop.
That's when my husband was there full time, yes.
But he was doing work before that.
He
correct?
worked part-time, yes, for
Yeah.
friends and family.
Now, this
before.
is not a trap or a trick question. So I want to know what has changed since February.
That he works there full time.
No, the objection from folks. Why the objection now?
I'm not sure. You'll have to ask my neighbors that. They
Okay.
have said that there's more traffic. I don't really see it, but there certainly is more traffic than when he worked part-time and he had another job somewhere else during the day. But it hasn't been a problem with people being able to pass and get to where they need to go.
All right. Other questions for Ms. Fields? Thank you, Ms. Fields. Anybody have any comments from the Hertz or Hearst? Anything further? All right. Come on up and talk to us. Oh, yeah, it is. Your question is good.
I'm Donna Hurd.
Yes, ma'am.
Amy's sister. Well, the only thing that bothers me is how you give someone this license to operate when you were given the plat of land with the outline of the old road. That is not the same driveway. There is another road to that property. I want him to have a business also, but if he could just see clear to do the other right of way, then everybody would be happy.
All right. All right.
So, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
please.
Sorry. So, Donna, I think when we were here with the planning commission, I think your dad, Amy, Joe, I'm sorry. I heard them all say they had no objection to the business itself. It's just the right of way. And now we've heard from our attorney that it's not something we can decide on up here. So in your mind, what has changed since February?
Well, they were, as far as them using the road?
Yeah.
Well, it was to go to their home. But there is a lot of trucks, and it's a bad spot in the road. It has to be fixed quite often. So the whole solution, to me, if I looked at the map, I can see the yellow outline that is not the same road that they're using. And it's owned by the Greens, and they said they would be happy to let them put a road there. that would solve everybody's problem. The traffic, they could come and go, their workers, whatever, could come and go. So
All right.
it's on the map.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have comments about this? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm certainly not here to argue this evening, but if there's a plat that shows another right-of-way to my property, I would be happy to use it. I simply cannot put in another road without permission from the other landowners. I've spoken to Mr. Green, and he said he had no problem with our business. But again, if there's another road, I'd be happy to use it. I simply cannot find it in any of the records. I provided Sean Gregg over the weekend copies of every deed to my property going back to 1971. And all of them say that I have the right to use an outlet road jointly with my neighbors to the state highway, with the map showing the road. I just don't understand the confusion there, but I am satisfied with the county's proposal that we leave the road as a matter between neighbors and move on.
There you go. All right. We've heard from everybody. We do have a recommendation from the Planning Commission. How would y'all like to proceed here?
So, Mr. Chairman, I have just one quick question. So clearly everybody's in favor of the business. Only at issue is the access to that business. We have, I think, appropriately so sort of washed the county's hands of the access. But at the same time, if there is something that the neighbors can mutually agree upon to use another access point, does the county step in and get in the way of that, or what is our role there?
Sean Gregg, did you hear Mr. McGee's comment? If
I did, and that's a matter between private landowners. If they seek guidance from the county, there's really no need for them to seek guidance from the county. The appropriate person for them to seek guidance from would be the Madison County Circuit Court. But if private parties can reach an agreement with regard to location of an easement, that is really beyond the purview of the county. The county just does not get involved in those types of issues. Does that answer the question, Mr. McGee?
Yes, that's good. Thank you, Sean.
The other one that I do think is worth mentioning on this is that number one, where we, in cases in front of the Planning Commission, frankly, the board is going back and forth, and it's kind of on a case-by-case basis, is this special use permit is non-transferable. This is for solely Mr. Fields, not somebody else. It's going to have to come back in front of the board and the Planning Commission if they want to proceed with this business if the Fields vacate that property. It gives neighbors, gives everybody a little bit of protection. So it doesn't become something that it's not. All right. Anybody else have questions, comments, thoughts, motion? What do y'all want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve case SU 09-21-11 as recommended by the Planning Commission to include the recommended special use permit conditions as presented to the board.
Second.
All right. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
There you go. Thank you all. Hopefully everybody can work this thing out and figure it out as neighbors. All right, Mr. Weekly, talk to us about the cigarette tax ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item's been around a little bit. The General Assembly gives localities the right to implement a cigarette tax if they shall wish. We were contacted by the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, and as you may recall, some things were involved with that commission. Some things were involved in Rappahannock There's a couple of things I need direction on. One, since you have the authority of the locality to implement a cigarette tax, do you wish to do so? Two, if the answer is yes, how do you wish to administer the collection portion? And this would be via ordinance, so there's a public hearing that would be required. But what the Thomas Jefferson Planning District would like for, there's 8 localities that would be included, is to form what they're calling a Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board. And that would be comprised of the counties of Albemarle, Augusta, the city of Charlottesville, Savannah County, Greene County, Madison County, Nelson County, and Orange counties. So first step is to identify or just give some direction to staff. You want to levy or consider levying or implementing a cigarette tax. Second is, do you want to be part of this group? It does take 6 counties of the 8 to form the tax board. I will say that you do not have to jump in if you choose not to. There is a buy-in cost, is what they're referring to it. And what that buy-in cost is, if this group is formed, they would hire an administrator. They would need equipment, scanner, printer, things of that nature. And there would be some startup costs that's split amongst the counties that are participating. There also is the ability, if you were to join this group, to terminate that agreement. I think it's 60-day notice. It's in the packet. So again, if you were to move forward, we would have to advertise. 40 cents is the maximum that you can levy. It's the recommendation of this commission. However, that is not what all counties are currently doing. I'm going to look over here to my left. I reached out to Mr. Blunt, who's the director at the planning district. And currently, we have not met the 6-county threshold. Albemarle and Augusta counties are the 2 that have approved at least forming the regional board last week. I asked a question about the 40 cents because the goal would be, if you're having multiple jurisdictions, if one's at 10, one's at 40, what does that mean? Are you driving to another county to purchase your cigarettes? What I was informed is the only county among the group thus far that has approved the rate is Augusta County, and they adopted 15 cents per pack, the levy. So it's per pack. I like to talk about it. In some narrations, they talk about per cigarette. I don't want to get into that.
Oh, let's do that.
So, and even at Augusta County, their staff recommended 30 cents and they went with 15 cents. What that would mean, and I can play with numbers here, I actually wrote on the back. I've got a spreadsheet in front of me I didn't include in your packet. They give you some projections, so just so you get an idea of revenue. This is full year, so this would not be reflective of a year 1 if you choose to do that. That's because they ideally want everyone to adopt this by October. So by December, they can get the stamps in, so it can be implemented to their vendors, and then go live in January. So you're only dealing with 6 months. But anyway, if you were in a full year, the estimated revenue at 40 cents per pack would be $125,396. If you want to look at lower thresholds, 30 cents would generate a little over 94,000. This is 30 cents per pack. 20 cents per pack would generate almost 63,000. And 10 cents a pack would generate just over 31,000. This is annual revenue. If you chose the regional board effort, the Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board effort, that group would administer and collecting revenues, and once a month, those revenues would be sent to the county. I've talked it over with our constitutional offices. The preference, if you were to ask them, would be this to be administered by the regional board and not those offices. And those are reasons that they could state if we want to move forward. I'll certainly ask them to come to the public hearing to speak to the Board of Supervisors. So really looking for some guidance. Let me give you one last data point. As far as the buy-in, I thought that was on this sheet. If not, I'm going to have to go by memory. There's roughly startup costs a little over $100,000, and Madison would be responsible this up here. It's a little over, yeah, it's 83.95. Now, if I play with these numbers, the tax rate, it may change some. But the overall, they have upped this. The overall estimated startup is 218.91. So Madison's portion would be 83.95. And again, you can opt in at any time. You don't have to go day one if you choose to, but they need a minimum of 6 to form this board. If you did join and you say, not my thing later on, want to back out, you have the right to do that. My recommendation is at least consider it. It is revenue. I'm not a voting member. It is a new tax, and that's not going to be favorable. I'm just thinking at least consideration. A public hearing doesn't mean you need to adopt it. If you're going to have a public hearing, I would say advertise the max. I would not recommend the max, the 40 cents. But what that does, it gives you the threshold to dial it back. If you set it lower, just like you do with your tax rates, you cannot go above unless you're re-advertising. So I just need a little bit of direction. I'm happy to answer any questions, but kind of step one, would you like to consider a cigarette tax? 2, would you like to consider being part of a regional board? And if so, we would move it forward to a public hearing upon your direction, and then Sean and I would get together on the calendar. I would like to pose one thing, and I'm sorry, Sean, for putting you on the spot. One thing I did not consider, and again, my apologies, this is an ordinance. Is there planning commission involvement for this, or how will we proceed with public hearing requirement?
You hear that, Sean Gregg?
This is not really a planning commission issue.
Tracking, thank you.
It's an economic development issue, but it's not, well, it's arguably an economic development issue. It would be appropriate to involve the planning commission, but it's not necessary to involve the planning commission.
That is a very poor answer.
Well, let me put it this way. If you want the planning commission involved, you have every right.
All right, that's
They need to be involved. They do not need to, and one might perceive that that's an unnecessary step in the process.
Thank you.
And that is fair what other localities are doing. Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
All right, and the commission is not here, but he is in favor of going with this cigarette tax board as well, correct?
If we're going to do it, yes, sir. Have the regional board collect.
All right. Do we want to go down this path of taxing cigarettes, I guess?
To have a public hearing.
Yeah, so
Sure.
we can do the public hearing.
Sure. So I have a quick question. So if we join the board, though, the board sets the rate, correct? We would not,
No, sir.
we still get to set the rate?
And you're in the ordinance when you adopt it. Let me bring that up.
All right.
And we'll have probably a different draft that we'll send out, and then we'll get to the papers. But you would establish, somewhere in this ordinance here, you can wordsmith it. This was just a suggestion they have. You would advertise what your rate would be. Ultimately, if you don't choose 40 cents, again, if you're going to do this, I'd recommend you advertise for the 40 so you can roll back if you wish. But you would have the authority, just like I think it was Augusta County I just mentioned. Their staff recommended 30. They adopted 15 cents. So you would have the authority, sir, on that.
Thank you.
I mean, if you look at 8A, the disbursement to each member jurisdiction shall be determined by the tax rate of the jurisdiction multiplied by the taxable packs of cigarettes reported within the jurisdiction, plus interest and penalties assessed within the jurisdiction. I don't know, what are the penalties?
Not aware of the penalties. I do know there's kind of this proration period. So when you implement this, what's in the inventory, won't have that tax applied. As far as penalties, I'd have to look into that, sir, and report back to the board.
All right. If we proceed with this, is everybody okay with using this Blue Ridge or being a part of this Blue Ridge cigarette tax board?
Mhm.
Is everybody good on that? So there's the direction on that one.
All right. As far as the date, if you want, because we have to advertise, do you have a preference? The board have a preference? Your first business meeting in October, your joint meeting in October, your latter meeting in October, November? What do you feel?
Let's do it the first meeting of October. Get
First
this thing
business
going.
meeting, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work? Yeah. And
what was it, drop dead? Wasn't there a drop dead date?
They would like for you to have this done in October, so that would give them time. It's like a 50-day period from the time you do in October to they get this live, they get the stamps in December to go live in January. However, they need 6 counties to do that. If not, it doesn't move forward as a board. So if you were to even track later, and I'm not suggesting that, I'm just giving an example, as long as they get 6 counties, you can go in anytime you want.
If everybody's okay, let's proceed with the public hearing. I think the recommendation, like Mr. Weekly is recommending, is that we advertise at the highest rate, and then we figure out where we really need to be, and that's where we go.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Public hearing on cigarette tax, October, first meeting in October.
Okay, Mr. Gregg, I'll work with you, sir, on the advertisement very soon.
That work for you, Mr. Gregg?
Works for me.
Thank you, sir.
So I guess I do have one quick question. So we will, let's say we approve it and we decide to set a rate. Do we have a method for calculating what that, does anybody know how we will calculate what the rate ought to be?
Yeah, Mr. Fry will be back in about a month.
Can he do that? Yeah. I don't even know how you would go about doing that.
No.
I'd like to have
Yeah,
rational.
Yeah, well,
I'm not sure. I mean, 40 cents is the maximum. We know, and we know that would generate $125,000, a little over that. But that's the maximum. So trying to think how to answer your question. I don't know if you come back and say, well, our rate should be this. I mean, it's a new revenue stream. I guess you can look and say, hey, do we want to do this in a tiered approach? We try this level, see what kind of revenue projections, if they're off, if they're close. And these are projections from the planning district. You could go that way, but at least the 40 cents, you know what will be receiving. And they're estimating now, fair question, I'll follow up and get back to you. They have estimated packs sold. I do not know what went into that number, but they do have estimated packs sold per county. I'm sure there's some statistics or data points on that they get from some agency.
are we winning?
What's that?
Who is winning?
Who's winning?
Yeah.
Let's see. Who's selling the most cigarettes? Boy, there's a lot of smokers in Albemarle County.
Yeah, that's what we figured.
And it looks like we are the healthiest county. We are 313, and the next in line would be Nelson, but they're drinking Bull Rock. So you trade one or the other.
All right. So to answer the question, no, there's no method. It's basically whatever the public tells us and then how we feel on that specific day. Let's go ahead and do the thing on October 1st, or the first meeting in October, excuse me. We'll advertise at 40 and probably come off of that probably pretty substantially.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have a preference on the start time? I know in the past we did 7. Do you want it at 6?
No,
or
let's not do 7. We start at 4. Let's do the public hearing at 5.
At 5? Yes, sir.
Does that work? And then if we don't have a whole bunch.
Meeting or the joint? Meeting?
No, not the joint. This is the board.
The first business
okay.
meeting.
Yes. All right. Everybody good on that one?
Yeah.
All right. ERP project management services. Mr. Yao, would you like to start, or Mr. Weekly? Mr. Weekly,
You want to start?
Sure.
You started this morning. Might as well start now.
You have the history there, sir.
Yeah.
So everyone is well aware, the public may or may not be, the Board of Supervisors decided to implement an ERP, which is essentially the umbrella. You have programs underneath of that do different things. Finance, Tyler Munis, Venity, and Laserfish. Some of those are tied into records and things of that nature. Anyway, we have 3 ongoing software programs. Earlier on, I think there was an individual tapped to be project management, and maybe fair to say their scope of work kind of morphed into more of a subject matter expert, to which they were spending those hours, getting in the weeds of implementation of Tyler Munis and so forth. But what I feel we're lacking, and Mr. Yao has joined me on multiple conversations with Cherry Becker, which is an agency or service provider you hired back in 2018 to do some oversight. And they were originally considered for project management, were not selected at that time. But it's very obvious in my short time here, we need some things that fall in line more to your project management role. And those are things as communications, it's key. Communication can look like a various things. So you have a training schedule that everybody's aware of. So we know what the left and right's doing, whether it's building and zoning or if it's finance or whatever department may be. We also know when Tyler or the other programs are offering training. We're communicating if the rollout time does not work, we push that off. But also ultimately where your end goal is of the project, where you currently are. So traditional stuff, I'm not saying this is a construction project, but whether it's construction projects or other projects you're offering project management, you want to know where you're currently at. They're reviewing contract. They're pushing back on vendors as well when need be to make sure we adhere to the contract. So we felt there was a void, reached out after a meeting, Mr. Yao, myself, had with Jim Holman of Cherry Beckert. And it was evident to me after that meeting, hey, why don't we go back to Cherry Beckert and see if they can offer this service? They took that consideration. They put forth what is you see before you is Schedule 4. It's a scope of work. Basically, we'll cover the scope as I just outlined with project management coordination. And there is a fee for it. It does come at a cost. I will tell you, whether it's the board or public has sticker shock, generally I'm one that's very low key on getting consultant service, but there is a cost of not having this service. I want to put this out to the board. So what you have on the screen in front of you, this fee is a fixed fee for 8 months, $6,000 a month for a total fixed fee of $48,000 for this service. This does not include travel time and actual out of pocket, which is travel and living expenses. The good news is we feel like we will reduce visibility on those items because we are a little further along than what we originally reached out to them. So some of this project management can actually be done off site. And I don't want to scare the public on that. This is a lot of technical stuff that you can do remotely. There will be boots on the ground time, getting up to speed, having stakeholder meetings with Madison team and the vendors. So that's all I have to add at this time. Mr. Yao, if hope I didn't butcher that too much. But
no, that's fine. Yeah, so dealing with Tyler Munis has, for those of you that were around in 2014 dealing with this, has its own challenges. They're a big organization. This is the leader in county accounting systems, if you will, ERP. I call it accounting systems. Only goes to Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer's Office and Planning and Zoning. So what we found out is, they have a process that they want to impose on everyone. Well, we're just little old Madison County trying to get by, and they are doing it for huge counties and municipal cities and whatnot. So it was apparent, and Michelle and Bruce especially can attest to the fact that first of all, they were trying to push us, and we've got our own work to do. That's we, meaning you guys. The staff has their own work to do, so you need to work with us. This on top of the fact that we lost our finance director and our county administrator for a period of time. So in conversations with Jonathan and Jim Holman from Cherry Beckert didn't take it on initially because they told us they were too expensive. So they found this other person that's not as expensive. So this morning when we interviewed this guy, Tom Char, he has 25 years in project management, which is a skill set. I asked him, I said, okay, so I'm an accountant by education, but then I come into the county realm and not all of my skill set applies. So you're a project manager, and with 25 years, will it apply? Well, then he said that yes, he felt like it would, and Jim Holman from Cherry Beckert was on the call. He has some large-scale implementations with Oracle, PeopleSoft. He's done public schools, the Library of Congress. He does not know Tyler exactly, so I asked him, basically, where will you start? So the travel that was in there, I questioned that travel will be over and above the 40 agreement. It's only going to be 1 day to begin with and 1 at the end. So I questioned how that was going to work remotely, and I think we all came to the conclusion that in this remote world we're living in, especially, that it would be fine. So I asked him, so when you come in here day one, what are you going to do? Where are you going to start? And he said, well, I'm going to get with Bobby and Michelle and Bruce and Jonathan and Stephanie and Brian and find out where are you today, because he's going to be producing something fancier than a Gantt chart to schedule out all this stuff, because certain phases have to be completed before you can move to the next phase. And that's where we were getting hung up, because Tyler was saying, okay, phase 2 guy, go in there and train Madison on this, when the phase 1 guy hadn't finished yet and didn't know that the phase 2 guy didn't know that he was done. Mm-hmm. So you see where this is going.
Yeah.
It's going great. Go
You got
ahead.
it?
Yeah, I got it.
So-
Got it. Going well.
As a consequence, through our discussions, like, this is critical to have a project manager that's going to be at the top of all this stuff. And we will have a steering committee every 2 weeks made up of this project manager, Tom Char, Jim Holman from Cherry Becker, Jonathan, and myself. So we will get reports, and the board will get reports as to where we are in this process. But this will not fail. Not having a finance director is definitely an issue, although I think Bobby and Michelle is your hair getting gray? You're all right? Because that was the other thing. I told Tom Char this morning, I said, I do not want to see us, you come up with a schedule that Tyler can adhere to, but I do not want to bury our staff. Okay, if we got to push the schedule a little bit, then we will do it. So I think this is much needed, and I would advocate that we go with Mr. Char as our project manager.
All right. That was pretty good.
That's all I got.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah. It seems like this is our option at this point. We've got a lot invested in this. We've got all of our major departments are working with this system. It has massive potential, but getting it completely implemented has its challenges. And us kind of waiting a little bit longer than we probably should have didn't help the situation. This is going to be expensive, $48K over 8 months as a fixed price. And then travel on top of that, not the best. Does sound like it's warranted and needed. Anybody else have any comments on this one? We probably should do a vote on this so that we can get Jonathan to engage with these people and get this show going, because without that service, we're treading water not real well.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may add one thing, what you see in front of you, and I'm trying to, it's called Schedule 4, and we looked at this, and I'll point out, Mr. Yao, I'll have to get you the answer to your question tomorrow. The question is, and Michelle, help you capture this, the funding source. We're going to use the same funding source as we have been paying Cherry Becker. The question is it from loan proceeds? Because we took out loans for different things. So we can have that conversation tomorrow and let you know now, and I'll follow. All right. So we get that, shoot an email out to the whole board so you're aware of it. But it is important to point out, if you look at the first paragraph there, this Schedule 4 is made and entered into, if you consider this day, obviously, but it's an annex, so an addendum or whatever verbiage you want to use to the engagement letter of November 7, 2018. So you're just adding to this service contract, if you will. We'll use the same funding source. However, it is a new request, and we have to have that approval. So a motion, if you so wish, to approve Schedule 4 as presented should capture everything unless Mr. Gregg has other thoughts.
Mr. Gregg, do you have other thoughts on this, or would that motion work for you?
I think that motion is appropriate.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments, questions, thoughts? What would y'all like to do?
Very well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Schedule 4 to the Cherry Becker engagement letter dated November 7, 2018.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, there's another one. Thank you. All right. One of my favorites. Leather Lane maintenance request. Mr. Wigby is going through the process as we've set forth. He would like to do road improvements, and it's basically just raking in front of lot 1 and in front of lot 20. Not the span between 1 and 20, but just in front of those two sites. Mr. Gregg has provided all of us as a great resource so that, because we know it's coming back, these binders. It takes us all the way back to the first of zoning. I think, Mr. Gregg, we've all been under the assumption that zoning started somewhere in between 73 and 74. Mr. Gregg has corrected us completely. The subdivision ordinance was adopted June 30th of 1967. There are lots of tabs and great information here that I encourage everybody to read before they go to bed. All right, Mr. Gregg. Mr. Gregg, what else do you have to add to this this most recent request in your research?
I don't have anything to add. If the process is followed and the will of the board to approve it, the board can approve it. If it is not the will of the board to approve it, the board does not have to approve it.
All right, Mr. Wig, it's up to us. Mr. Weekly, what?
So who owns these two lots?
Well, Mr. Wigby owns lot 20,
18 and 20.
and 18 and 20, but we're not doing any work in front of 18.
Who owns one?
Who owns one, Mr. Wigby? Goodell?
Goodell, well, Stick owns the ones across the road. Goodell is a little cabin straight up from Sticks, right?
So the owner of lot 1 has requested you to rake the gravel.
New owners,
Good.
Oh, it's
Think
new
it's on.
owners.
new owners, but I mentioned to them that I've been maintaining the road, and they said, yes, somebody, looks like somebody's been maintaining it. And I said, we're just going through some things with other neighbors, but we've been maintaining it for years, and they said, looks good. I said, might I keep doing it? And they said, go about it.
Yeah. And they're the new owners of that lot, right, Daryl?
But we don't have anything in writing from the Goodells.
No.
No, they don't moved.
What?
I'm sorry. They have moved.
They moved.
He's
Yeah,
saying
they
the
was-
new owner.
Oh, who's the new owner?
What's the owner's name? Because I don't have them on my, the only folks that have contacted me are those in disapproval. But what's the name of, Mr. Whitby?
I'm sorry.
What's the name of the owners for lot 1?
I don't know the last name, but the guy's name's Taz. That's all I know is talk to him, and I've met his
All right.
parents. They live there now, and
Get in touch with Taz. Add him to our list. All right.
And are
I did
you
the
actually
county
bringing gravel in? You're bringing gravel into lot 1 and lot
oh no,
20?
I'm just gonna rake the entrances because it's
Just raking.
last spring.
Power raking.
Can
We,
you
uh,
approve that without their?
Oh, sure can.
Yeah, just lemon it out.
We've
Okay.
seen the process. The question, well, and it's a good question, is can we approve this without Taz's consent? I do think we should add and hopefully get his last name, Taz, to our list of property owners up there. But I do think that at this point, we've gone through the process of notification, and everybody's got their input in that wants to get their input in, I guess. And we know that Daryl is not going to be a pain in the neck up there. He's just going to rake the gravel and do a good job and get the job done, and that's going to be about that. All right. What else are we missing here?
I just want to point for clarity. I'm sorry, ladies first.
I just want to say the email was sent to him and he didn't say anything, not to do it.
That,
But
So
did
I-
you say to do it? Yeah.
Did he say yes or no? Or he just said,
But we don't have anything in writing. I don't know if I felt
yeah, I don't have
comfortable-
correspondence from that landowner. I have correspondence from the remainders who are not in approval. However, Mr. Whitby did resubmit, and I put the request up there, and I apologize. If we updated your packet. What originally went out to the public had the old request. He has put forth his schedule. That was one of the items I said was lacking. Is there's several things. One, we don't have to put all this in the packet. It's information to the board first and foremost, but what we do generally. But the information, the request has to be given to everybody on the road. So whether it's Mr. Whitby that wants to do the maintenance or anyone else on that road, they have to send the request out to all lot owners or residencies, but that would still be a lot owner. Though we have 14 days, they must be given to provide comments. You must provide what equipment and so forth you will be using and provide the work schedule. And that was one of the things I said. You can't assume August 25th or whatever because the board hasn't had time. There has to be 14 days. So he has came back and has provided the duration. He's assuming, looks like he used my example, smart man, 9/15 and projected to be completed on 9/17. He lists the vehicle, the equipment he's using. It's displacement of gravel. He's not adding gravel. And looking at the conditions of the road, that is probably one of the better private drives or whatever you want to call it. It's not my drive. It's nice and peace and quiet. I will say the Kirby's did raise issues and question about some cones. Do you have cones currently out in the roadway?
are there any cones in the road?
No, I got some. I put them up today because my neighbor was looking. There's companies up there. And so
Talking to the mic, talking to the mic.
use the
Oh, no, I'm
mic.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm
okay.
so
We're all
sorry.
learning.
I just put them up temporary for today because my neighbor, his carpenters were backing out up next almost to my fence. And I said, "Woo!" I asked him, "Can you stay up the grass just a little bit? Back into the road instead of going there." And he kept on doing it. It's like he did it today. He's put like 3 or 4 cones. I'm gonna pick them up.
But
this evening.
it's not impeding traffic.
Oh, no,
correct?
no.
You'll pick them. Have you already picked them up or going to pick them up tomorrow?
I'm late on today when I get back.
Okay. So
But
I
they
just
all-
wanted to be fair to the Kirby's. They did mention that. The other thing that was mentioned, there was sod added and trees down. I reported last meeting. Mr. Ayler provided a report. I believe it's in this packet. The road's well kept. Now I put in the response back to everyone that you're not supposed to impede the road. That means you don't add sod, or we're not widening the road, we're not narrowing the road, we're keeping it at the width of the conditions that is in. And we didn't see any evidence or anything of that. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, upon all the emails, yes, I don't think you ever get 100% agreement. But in looking at past work that has been performed, I do want to point out and go ahead and resolve this now. There's been folks saying, well, what about liability? We checked on that with Mr. Gregg, and I'll let him chime in. I'll probably do a bad job of paraphrasing, but I believe it was the liability is at the person going in the road. It would be the same if you get in your car and drive on the road. So there's no liability to the county. The liability is on the persons, whether a contractor doing this work or driving on the road. And Mr. Gregg could chime in further if he chooses to, but I do want to put that to bed because that question has been posed to us multiple times.
All right, Mr. Gregg.
When the work is done, is at the risk of the person doing the work. That is for their own liability, and if they cause damage to any neighbors, because they have done the work in such a way that it causes damage to the neighbor's property.
All right, so you're assuming, what that means to me is that you're assuming responsibility for raking the gravel in front of lot 1 and 20, and that's what it is. All right.
So I see no reason to object. I would recommend approval based on past work, basing on, and then further, we will have to get agreement. I would admit to that from whether they agree verbally or not, we need to have that in writing.
Yeah.
If you could ask them to send me an email, I did send out an email to everyone else prior saying, look, please give me your updated contact and make sure we have that list because some of these emails get kicked back. But if you know them personally, you have my email, sir, have them email. But I see no reason, Mr. Chairman and the board, I'd recommend approval.
All right. Yeah. My one caveat here, and I do a lot of road work and a lot of road work. It says you've got from the 15th to the 17th to do it.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah. It's not going to take 3 days to do this road work, is it, Daryl? I hope not. That's not we know you're a faster worker than that. It shouldn't take 3 days. I figure there's like a rain clause in there or something. Get the job done and be done with it. Mr. Yao, what
He
you
wants
got?
to say something, I think.
Oh.
He's going to be working on it after work. It's not like he's going to be there tomorrow.
All right. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Mr. Whitby's proposal for road work on Leathers Lane with the condition that you, on your way home tonight, knock on the door and have him send Mr. Weekly his approval.
Second.
All right. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Mr. Wigby, knock it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Get the cones out and get an email. Got a lot of it. It's going to take all night just to get the cone. All right. No more new business. Information and correspondence. Mr. Yao, talk to us about RSA.
Gracie, back here.
Wow. Anybody?
Oh, crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
You must have had something better to do.
The
She even shut both legs. Oh,
Is that what it was?
Huh?
Chuck probably does.
Yeah, Chuck had to leave. Well, for the board's knowledge, this morning I got with Tim Clemens of RSA to get an update. The RSA board meeting will be in this room on Thursday at 2:00. With regards to Greene County exiting RSA, which you all know about, VRA has yet to say that Greene County has submitted the required documents for their review. Okay, so the process is VRA, Greene County's got to submit all basically a business plan to VRA to approve. Okay, and then as soon as that happens, then RSA is also got to do the same thing to show that they're still viable with just 2 entities remaining in the authority. But now RSA has assembled a team and they're ready to respond to VRA as soon as they get the request that Greene County has done. So that's where that's sitting right now. So
It would seem that Greene County is trying to solicit a vendor so that they can use the vendor's credibility to validate the VRA requirements. And we knew that they were previously advertising for this vendor to run their public utility. But as of now, maybe Thursday, they're going to say something good.
Right.
How long has VRA given them to get this paperwork back, or is it a time
They
limit?
haven't. No. There is one on the backside. I guess when VRA gets it, they've told Tim Clemens that they try to turn it around in 45 to 50 days.
But they
So
didn't
haven't
tell
done
Greene
this.
County you got to have it in 40
No.
days of a.
I guess they don't care.
They've been Greene County has been pushing from the start of this that it must be done immediately. We know a month ago at their meeting that they were talking about the advertisement being out. I'm sure that advertisement had to sit out for at least 30 days. It sounded like there was maybe 2 weeks left on it. Maybe Thursday they'll have something, but VRA has been, other than Greene County saying, yeah, we're working with them, and Tim's reached out to them, and I'm sure Sean Gregg is as well, but there's really not been a whole lot of communication back from DRA other than this is what we need and get it to us. Look forward to Thursday.
Yeah,
It's gonna be exciting. All right.
Steve, if you're around, you ought to come check this out.
Super fun.
2 o'clock in here.
All right. Other information and correspondence.
Sure. Only if the board members do not, I have just a couple items.
Yeah.
Probably just one item now. Tracy mentioned the Crest Array fundraiser. That's going on September the 25th. I have tasked the finance office to set up those account lines so when monies come in, we're able to handle that. So we're working on that, and Ms. Miller is well aware of that. Did receive a letter from VDOT, so I'm going to scan and send this to you all. This came recent, but I want to get it on the website as well. They're informing us the R-Cut or J-turn, whatever you want to call it, project at Shelby Road. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I feel like I don't. Okay. Thank you. They're going to hold a virtual.
Yeah,
public
we got a
hearing.
letter. I got a letter.
Did you get a letter?
You get a letter?
Yeah.
All right. So they're going to be having a virtual. So you may got it as members of the board, but I want to make sure the public is aware of this. So we're going to get it on the website. If there are other means you want us to get it out, we certainly can put it in a board packet where it shows up too, but we can get it on the website. They have a virtual public hearing to be held online Tuesday, October the 12th, 2021 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. If they have to cancel, they'll have it rescheduled for Tuesday, October 19th at the same time. The purpose of this virtual public hearing is to allow interested citizens the opportunity to review preliminary plans. So that shows you what the project looks like in the proposed restricted crossing U-turn. As you know, we've had several accidents and fatalities there. I can't remember if that's a smart scale project.
Yeah, it is.
But I think we need to bring awareness. The public's going to have limited time, and we want to make sure that they're able to attend. So this is their virtual meeting, and we'll get that on the website. If there's other broadcasting methods you'd like us to use, please mention that. So that's all I had for information items.
All right. Anybody? All right. To the public. Public comment. Public comment. Does anybody have any public comment? Yep, everybody's on board. Livingston, are they flowing in? No.
No.
It's kind of downtrodden. All right. We're done with public comment, I guess. It's unfortunate. Glad everybody could be here. We do have a closed session this evening. Please, Ms. Walker.
I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A1 for personnel matters and 2.2-3711A7 for potential litigation and consultation with the county attorney.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all very much. Sean Gregg, you want to stick with us?
I will.
Very good. Don't mind. Thank you.
I know.